Welcome to am I close enough to that? Welcome to Implicit Bias. I'm Caleb Morse, your co-host, your host for today. We got a nice little crew with us. No intro, no 2-hour-long monologue, just drinking whiskey, having a good time. We haven't really even sampled our whiskey yet, which is brought to you by New News. This is their Barrel Pick Rebel Full Proof at 120 proof. All I can tell you about it is the name and the proof. I literally know nothing about Rebel yet, but give me a little while and we'll know more. So before we dive into the whiskey and what we're going through and all that, I want to talk about mental health. June is Men's Mental Health Month or Mental Health Month. And up until recently, it was something that I thought I handled well. I do a lot for veterans and for veteran suicide prevention, and really thought that by doing more for others, I was doing enough for myself. And there was an interview done, and the journalist asked me, she said, Caleb, what do you do for your mental health and to help yourself? And it dawned on me that I did nothing, and that I was staring down a dark tunnel with no clue how to turn a light on because I had neglected my own mental health for so long. And I think that as a male veteran, because that's the point of view I can speak from, it was something that I just never thought was important to me. I thought about fitness in the physical term, as far as physical fitness, or health as in being healthy, eating the right foods, taking my vitamins, all the stuff that my drill sergeant told me, right? And I never thought about it as a whole body experience, spiritual, physical, and mental. And I neglected the mental side for a long time. And I was very, very fortunate to have great people in my life that really helped me talk about things and communicate my point of view and my issues to a certain degree and give me direction. And I've had a wonderful group of men around me that have lifted me up and helped me work through my own internal conflict. My wife has been there the entire time through my ups and my downs and has been a rock for me. But I was always neglecting myself. And I think that it's a topic that I really want us to dive into and discuss. So before we do that, we're going to go around the room, and Walker's going to grab a camera and do a pan shot of everyone. That way everyone can see what we all look like, right? Right? That's what we do?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, perfect. So in the chair like mine, burly, short, poor.
Pellerin.
I was going to let you jump in.
I'm here. I'm glad to be back here. It's been a few weeks actually.
Probably been about a month, maybe more.
Yeah, maybe more. We recently had the little summer supper, which was nice. We recorded
the week before,
a little bit before at Lester's again.
That's true. Yeah,
but,
2 weeks before.
Yeah, so glad to be here tonight.
I'm glad to have you. I think you'll enjoy the topics and the ambiance.
Haven't read them all, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is how we like to do it sometimes.
That's exactly how I like to do it.
We're literally just talking about random topics. It's not like we've studied on them, so
yep,
it's good.
And then up at the bar, it's his second time on the show now. We've got Daniel Hale. Daniel, welcome back.
Thank you.
You need to eat the microphone to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Glad to be here.
And the breaker man next to him right there.
I'm not the only one that drops the cover.
I'm just letting the box drop people get there.
Yeah. Into the microphone too, Andrew. Andrew Ward with the Acadiana Veteran Alliance.
Yep. So I finally got Caleb Morse to say yes, and he is on our board of directors now. So round of applause for him coming in on that.
I'm very happy to be there.
We are in our 5th year and love talking about this because one of our big pillars that we stand our organization on is mental health and our HEAL program for veterans.
And since you brought up the HEAL program too, for the listeners out there, the HEAL program, they utilize what's called the SGB, the stellate ganglion block. And when I realized where I was in my own mental health and the neglect I had allowed myself to have, I began talking to Dr. Shauna Springer, who actually, I believe you had introduced me to her about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, Andrew. And we were communicating over text over what she does in the SGB and how it's utilized. And at that point in my life, I did nothing and didn't block her phone number, but just stopped responding to her, which is the very adult thing to do in situations. And she just gave me space. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, I think, maybe a little bit more, I went on vacation. My wife came back and realized that I did not know how to relax. I was physically incapable of it. I was stuck in what I would call a negative feedback loop. And I was constantly trying to take in all of my environment and dominate my environment. And I reached out to Doc Springer, and her response was, well, welcome back. Now do you want my help? And she wanted to give me a very educated response on what the SGB is, which I would like you to do here in a second. And I told her, I said, Doc, look, I know you want to educate me on it, but I'll be honest with you. The less I know, the better right now. I know it works. I know people have had this and they say it works, and I have to do something. Otherwise, I won't be here 10 years down the road. I knew the stress was going to kill me. And she tried to educate me and told me all these thoughts I had was wrong, because she's a phenomenal doctor, and she's an educator and a presenter, a really good job at it. And I was like, Doc, let's just do it. And I reached out to the AVA and got enrolled into the HEAL program. And I'll let Andrew actually talk about what y'all do, and you can talk about it from a more intellectual point of view on what the SGB is.
Well, Shauna's fantastic, and that's why we've been partnered with her for years, and her organization Stella, because they have doctors all over the country, and she wrote the book Warrior. I mean, she's one of the foremost authorities, if not the, when it comes to treating not only veterans for trauma, but also first responders, police, firefighters. So I can back up a little bit, and the way I always tell people about how the shot works, it's very simple. So in our brains, we have something called an amygdala. And in that amygdala, we have something called a fight or flight receptor. So we're sitting in the studio, we're recording right now. If somebody walked through that door right now with a gun, we would run and tackle them, or we would run out the door the other way. We're gonna do one or the other. That fight or flight, because of that, a million years of DNA and evolving, what happens is it's on a bell curve. So the bell curve comes up, the bell curve comes down. Well, when you are that EMT, or you're that police officer, or you're that combat veteran, what happens is you're up and you're up and you're up. And do you ever come down? Very rarely, because that's not your job. Your job is to always be on. So the science of it is, because your fight or flight receptor doesn't have the ability to come back down to baseline, it's almost in that hyper arousal that you hear. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you always feel anxious. That's why you always feel like you just can't come down from something. And that's why veterans turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they turn to pills, they turn to these things, aids, crutches, whatever. So also in the base of your brain, this is what, these guys are way smarter than me, but I've learned over years, this is how it works. We shoot an anesthetic in a needle in the right side of your neck. That anesthetic is the same thing that's in an epidural. It numbs you. What it does is it numbs or blocks the stellate ganglion block. It numbs the stellate ganglion nerve cluster in the brain, which controls that fight or flight receptor. So it blocks it. It ceases it. And so what happens is during those milliseconds, you come back down to baseline. And if you've been at a heightened phase for a long time, that's the first time you can breathe. And I hear people that have come out of this thing. I've had it. Caleb, you've had it. We can talk about our experience. You feel this like sense of just cathartic release that you haven't felt in a very, very long time. And so what we wanted to do was we started AVA back in 2020. I knew that this thing worked. I worked with a doctor here locally that does it. And so we've just been doing more and more and more. We're over 60 veterans in the first, and AVA pays for the treatment. You don't have to pay for the treatment. We take care of that. And so getting back to your Shauna part, we knew that we wanted to expand beyond Lafayette, and Shauna and her team gave us the ability to do that. So we've been going on this big national road show to get more money, almost like you would as a startup. And we want to be able to treat more veterans in Louisiana, treat more veterans around the country. And so in 2 weeks, on the 20th, she's going to be flying in. We're bringing her in for an event, and it's going to be a continuing education event. It's going to be all day long. It's going to be for counselors, social workers, anyone that's in the behavioral health space that wants to understand how to better treat trauma. So the name of it is Treating Trauma. Mm. And so she's going to be our keynote for that. So we're pretty excited.
I'm looking forward to it. And you know, when I was talking to Shauna and then some of her staff, one of her staff members told me that I was an agent of chaos because I would say yes to a lot of things and gather things around me and gather people around me and try to juggle all these things, which I don't know about everyone else in this room, but I'm not a juggler. But whenever things got to a point where the water was boiling over and everyone else started getting very anxious and losing their minds, I would calm down. Because for once I was back in my modus operandi. When everything was going on, when everything was going to crap, I would slow down, take charge, and do the things I had to do because that's what I was trained to do. So if I didn't have enough chaos around me, I would generate chaos. And by going through and having the SGB, the first day I didn't notice anything, right? We had the procedure, and then we drove home. And the next morning, I had this sensation of taking weight off. And the best way to describe that is when I would go on mission when I was overseas, at the end of the day, when you take off your kit. So I'm 210 pounds. When I was active duty, I was 190 pounds. And with kit on, I weighed almost 310, 320 pounds. So it's a lot of weight. And when you take that off of you at the end of 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, you notice it. And I felt this continual sensation of just weight coming off of me. And it was the first time in my adult life that I can remember relaxing. It was just the most phenomenal experience I've ever had. And what I love about the SGB is I'm not on a medication. They do the block. It takes effect. It lasts for, the numbing agent lasts for 6 hours roughly. And my chest was numb. Everything else, all this is numb. I had a very, very deep voice. I sounded like Justin Richard of our shop. You know, I had this deep, nice voice that my wife liked, I think. And the next day, I woke up and I just felt like me, like the me that I remember.
But it brought you back, right? And that's one of the things that we tell people, though, is that this is not a magic bullet. The question I get every time is, how many times do I have to get this shot? Is it every week? Is it every month? I had it back in 2021. I haven't had it since. Now, do I do counseling or do I do things that help me to stay in that mindset? Yes, because this is just we call it an adjunct therapy, right? This is not something that's going to be like a magic bullet and you're done. You're supposed to go, and we talk about mental health. Mental health is going to be always there, especially if you're trained in that kind of like we were in that battle zone to be able to be always on all the time. Sometimes you need to be able to learn how to release yourself from that. And so this just allows you to kind of have that starting line.
Andrew, is the treatment readily available to everyone and anyone?
Yes.
And do they know about it?
So here's the deal. It's readily available. So think about Ozempic. Ozempic is an off-label usage for people that want to lose weight, right? So it wasn't intended for that,
No.
but that's what it's kind of become. So the SGB is a nerve pain block that was invented 100 years ago that is used by every pain management and by every anesthesiologist in the world. Okay. So you go to a pain management doc, that's what they do. But they use it for upper extremity nerve pain. And so what they found was during about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was the patients coming out of that procedure were like really docile, or they were having feedback going, man, I felt really calm afterward. So they started doing studies and figuring out, here's the off-label. So yes, to your question, you can get it. Does your insurance pay for it? No. Does the VA cover it at every facility? No. Are we getting there? Yes. And so kind of our goal with AVA, with Caleb and I, is to keep this going, perpetuate this into the level that it is covered by VA, that it is covered by your Humana and your Blue Cross, and we just move on to something else that helps veterans.
How do they communicate that to the veterans who may not be on social or
And that's the
listening?
difficulty is getting the word out, right?
Right.
Because whenever we first talked about it, I had never heard of it. So it took them educating me, and then even once they educated me, I was scared to death of it.
Right.
So it took my own experience to say, hey, pay attention.
We get a lot of word of mouth. We do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you have one guy and you're just, you're talking to your buddy that you served with and you're like, dude, I used to be, on edge all the time and I got this SGB thing. And so it's spread. It's just, it's one of those things that it really could use the dam to burst for us to be able to really get this thing out there. And that's why Shauna and I have been flying to San Antonio, flying to DC, meeting with these big organizations, right? Meeting with these big foundations to say, give us a 7-figure paycheck so we can go out there and we can share it with the masses and really get the attention that it deserves.
And I think that one of the reasons the SGB doesn't have the attention it deserves is you're not taking a long-term medication, right? So when you think about it from a standard doctoral point of view or a standard medical point of view, you know, what's the VA going to do if you show up and you say, hey, look, I have depression. Well, let's put you on a pill that you would take every day for the rest of your life, and you're going to have depressive thoughts, potential suicide tendencies, and other things because of the antidepressant we give you. This doesn't do that. It's a shot, which I tell people it's a tourniquet to stop the bleeding to get surgery. What's the surgery? Counseling.
That's a great way of putting it.
It gets you in a position where counseling actually does what it's meant to do. It gives you a chance to where you can talk to somebody and understand and realize. After I had it done, I felt like I was able to sit down with God in my control room, and God was like, hey, if you open this valve a little bit, this is anger. This is love. This is joy. This is happiness. All of a sudden, I saw the spectrum of emotions that I didn't know I had. And I was able to identify them. And it blew my mind. And I actually sat there and wept the next morning because I was so overjoyed with where I am in life, with a beautiful wife of 21 years, with 2 great kids, with a business that does so much for so many people. And I was like, man, I never would I would have imagined this. And I felt so much joy. And what changed? All it was I, for once, wasn't stuck in a negative feedback loop. And I could experience my own emotions and recognize them for something besides anxiety. So,
Heal program,
Yeah.
Acadiana Veteran Alliance, shameless plug.
yeah. So it's it's getting the word out. It's letting people know, hey, this exists.
Yeah.
It's letting them know they can donate to the AVA. They can do all these other things, and they can help educate more people, because mental health is something that I know I ignored. So let's not everyone else ignore it too.
Agreed.
But sit tight, because we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Implicit Bias. This is Caleb Morris, followed by other people. I don't like doing all these other intros. Go back, rewind, or just stay tuned in. You'll hear names at some point. We're discussing mental health, and this being Mental Health Month, the stellate ganglion block, the SGB, the AVA HEAL program, and what we now do to help our own mental health. So like I said earlier, I was talking to a reporter, and she asked me what I did for my own mental health, and I realized nothing, which has changed now. So I want to ask the gentleman here, is there anything that y'all do for your own mental health? Is there something or a time or maybe prayer or meditation, anything that you would be willing to share that might help one person out there?
I'll go, I guess. So I had the benefit of finding out about this retreat that's totally free for everyone. It's called the Vipassana Meditation Retreat. And it's a 10-day schedule. And you're told to bring nothing, your clothes and a pillow. And they feed you. And when you go there, you don't pay anything. And everyone who works there is a volunteer. It's completely nonprofit. But you go there and you take a vow of silence. You're not to speak, and even like eye contact, any kind of communication is not allowed. So for 10 days, you're basically forced completely inward. And they actually, also will teach you to, how to meditate.
Do they do that verbally?
Yes.
So they can talk to you?
They can talk to you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. And it's very simple stuff like that. Like they'll start, with they'll tell you to focus on like the, this part of your face and just like the sensation of air moving across your lip and stuff like that. Like just to kind of get you, taught how to focus. Mm-hmm. And then eventually you start moving throughout your whole body. And anyway, I got to say though, after 10 days, it worked. It definitely worked. And, everybody else, that I was there with could not wait to start talking again. But myself, I was happy to not talk. And I actually did 2 more sits after that.
Really?
Just try to get as much out of it as I could. And since then, I've been, not 100% disciplined, but still kind of using what I learned there, which is, they say it's like just the basic of what Buddha taught. So no dogma, no kind of theology, none of that. Just this is how you meditate, and this is why you meditate. And I guess the goal is essentially to retrain your brain how not to react to, at first, sensations, and then after that, thoughts, feelings, everything else. So essentially just to let things come and let things go as they will, with no attachment, no aversion, just allowing.
So to almost disconnect emotion from
Well,
self.
not disconnect. That's the wrong word, because
Okay.
you're supposed to experience it. You're not supposed to hide from the experience
Yeah.
at all. You're supposed to experience it 100%, but without any, like if it's a negative, like it's an itch, just a base kind of thing, like an itch, you're not supposed to scratch it. You're supposed to just let it be there. And then of course it gets a lot deeper than that after a while. But yeah, and the same thing with, you'll get these like waves of like, pleasurable sensations, and you're not supposed to be attached to that. You're not supposed to, oh, I want this to last forever. You just let it go. When it goes, it goes. And it teaches you how to apply that to the rest of your life.
But it sounds also very stoic, because the Stoics believe that life doesn't happen to you,
Right.
just life,
Right.
right? So
Yeah, these are not
new.
yeah, they're not
Yeah.
new, and they're and very universal ideas. If you go across, global, all kinds of religions, all kinds of philosophies, they all kind of have very similar ideas. But that just happened to be an opportunity that I had, and I took it. But again, I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist,
Yeah.
but what I learned there, I've applied to, other things.
Do you find yourself today kind of just turning yourself off and like go into the day saying, you know what, I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm gonna absorb the sounds. I'm gonna if
That
if
was
you
my
can.
biggest takeaway, actually.
Yeah.
Was my biggest takeaway was not interjecting as much.
Right.
And just kind of like trying to pay attention more. I think it's a very like kind of unfortunate American habit to just be completely self-absorbed.
Well, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason, right?
Right,
So,
Yeah.
I think that would be a great go back to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna listen.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna chill.
I even would go so far as to say, at the end of my 30 days there, I was sitting in the grass and I heard this sound that I'd never heard before. And it was like, I'm like, what the hell is that sound? And then I realized it was the ants
Oh wow.
crawling in the grass, and I could hear it. And my senses had become that heightened. And then and this is out in the middle of like the forest, essentially. When we drove back to the city, it was like painful.
Deafening.
So many
Yeah.
sounds.
All the
yeah.
just constant bombardment of sensory overload, and it was like, oh my god, like this is what we subject ourselves to daily, and it's definitely good to, I think, as much as you're able to. Not everyone can do that, but as much as you're able to, separate yourself from the constant sensory, like don't stay on the internet all the time, just try to have some quiet,
Yeah.
try to go out in the woods and just listen to the birds, and without sounding too hippie or whatever. But
To answer your question, Caleb, thank you, Dave. Daniel, Dave,
Yeah, Dave.
Daniel.
Dave.
Okay.
Daniel. Yeah.
I find myself, I work for myself, right? Car wash business. I mean, it's not just, everybody thinks you go and get money out of the thing. That's not what, I still have to.
You're a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, a mason.
And so one of the things that I have to do on a regular basis is pressure wash inside the car wash, which sounds kind of silly, but it needs to be cleaned, right? So it's one of those mundane tasks, but it's fruitful because then the place looks nice when you're done, but it's laborious in that it takes a couple of hours, right? So it's noisy. I'm by myself, right? So I find myself just thinking and contemplating, and then ultimately it kind of leads to a prayer, right? A prayerful time, as odd as it seems. And I'd love to be able to say, to answer your question, that I turn to prayer. I mean, I'm Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic. Insofar as I have to do the work to maintain that, as opposed to following the letter of the law, like people say when they think of the term being a practicing Catholic. I'm practiced like a kid who doesn't know how to play baseball. I've got to go to practice, right? But that's kind of where I find solace and peace and whatnot, and just using those mundane tasks that I have to do, but being able to parlay that into some peaceful, soul-searching, inward thinking time.
I love that.
When it's
Cutting grass, right? Cutting grass. We you get on our lawnmowers, and so now you're 2 hours. Some people drink beer. I don't, but some people drink beer for 2 hours because they're finally by themselves and they're away from it. But that's another good time to be able just to, you know what you have to do. It's not like you have to constantly think, right? You're making turns in the yard.
It's good that you recognize that for yourself too, right? You recognize that this time I'm alone. I can be in my thoughts. I can communicate with myself, and then if it leads to it, my higher power. Because there are so many of us that they don't take advantage, myself included, of those moments in time.
Right.
And I still have to work hard at carving time out for myself and forcing myself to slow down, because this sensory overload around us, the busyness of the American people and the American dream and the American way, it's going to kill you. It's going to beat you to a pulp.
It's the noise, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
the
you have
constant
audio,
noise.
you have visual, you have physical. We have this noise and frequency and vibration that beats us all day long.
Do you guys like old school Chinese kung fu movies? Like,
Oh, yeah.
where
Who
they got
doesn't?
they got subtitles. and whatnot?
Yeah.
One of my favorite aspects from these type of movies, that one of the things I always took away the most, was if you see someone doing, like you said, like a mundane task, they're using it to train.
Yes.
Like they're sweeping
Wax
the floor,
on, wax off, right?
and they're like practicing their kung fu at the same time. And it always stayed with me, like that is what the mundane tasks are for. It's an opportunity. Don't see it as a chore. It's literally an opportunity to better yourself in so many ways. And yeah, you're right. We have to try to take advantage of every chance, because it's rarer and rarer all the time.
Well, oftentimes we need someone to tell us. Like when I was in the service, I never understood why when you get back from the field, you have to clean your firearms, like clean your weapons, everything right then and there. After you go to the range, you clean them right then and there. I'm like, look, we've got days where we're going to do nothing. But you do that to have a moment to decompress, to break down, to do something that doesn't require thought. But don't get lost in that, because we have to be right back. Welcome back to segment 3.5. No, that's segment 3 of Implicit Bias. You're listening to us on maybe radio, maybe podcast, maybe YouTube, maybe Spotify, soon to be Audible, right, Walker?
Yeah.
The Implicit Bias audiobook coming soon to you. Made that one up. We're talking about mental health, what we do to steer our mental health and to help ourselves. And Andrew, you didn't get a chance to chime in about what you do for mental health.
What do I do? Whiskey? Does that count?
I mean, yeah.
I love that. Like the conversation was like, oh, we need time to ourselves. Like, I just want to ask the question. I mean, is that more about like, because we all hunt, we all fish, we all kind of mow the grass. Is that a me time, or is that just a or
It should be.
We all love our wives and our kids. We all do. I'm just right. We're good. Yeah.
And it's finding those times. And now since the SGB, like I found myself sitting there next to my wife, breathing out and holding her hand. Like we hold hands like we're dating again.
That's amazing.
Nice.
And I
That's
love
what
it.
you want to get back to, man.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think mental health it's not a one size fits all, obviously. So I think that what he said earlier about, having that time of silence. So I mentioned during the break, I just got back from a 1 week in Alaska. And what I love most about it is that we were on this National Geographic little mini cruise boat. It was only about 50 of us on the boat. And the reason for that is you can get in the channels deep. And we were taking Zodiacs into the glacier. We were taking kayaks into the place where the bears were and all this stuff. But what I loved about it was that you were off the grid for 7 days, right? Now, if I needed emergency on the boat, you could do it. But basically, I tried to unplug. And unplugging, like he talked about, is key. It really is. We're plugged in 100% of the day. Ding notification, ding notification, right? Calls, texts, emails. So I think what happens is your brain just gets overloaded with it. And we forget that sometimes it just takes a breath and something. And I think mental health can be anything. I talk to friends of mine, and exercise, simple as it
Huge
sounds.
thing. Huge thing.
Because it's just you and whatever you're doing, the exercise, the lift, whatever, and the music that you're in, you're just in that space in that moment. So I think you have to be that, whether it's meditation, whether it's, whatever it is, it just needs to be you detaching from the rest of the world throwing things at you, on a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
And we have to get back to what makes us happy and what makes us what makes us us.
I think that's probably key in terms of what we need to do as men and the providers of our family and workers and whatnot. I really think, Andrew, that we need to do things like that, where you have to disconnect. It's not a matter of whether or not you're turning your phone off, because we could do that, right? Today, we could turn them off, but our mind's not going to stop because, oh my God, how many calls have I missed? How many texts have I missed? Yep. But when we go on a trip like that, where it doesn't work, it says no signal.
Sometimes we need
right?
someone else to remove
it. So you're kind of forced in that situation, and it's funny when you talked about the glaciers and whatnot. I haven't been to Alaska. It's on my list. I've been to Montana. I went to Glacier National Park, and when you're far enough away, and you're hearing the silence, but it's not the silence, because then you hear ants crawling and you hear ice breaking.
I wanted to move there. We were watching these glaciers calve, and we were watching this wildlife, and we were just. I see the simple way of life that the people live there. And we saw the indigenous part of it, but just the normal people that were working in these Wrangell Bay communities where you can't even drive in there. It's only by boat or by plane.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I kind
the
of want to go back to that
right?
simplicity.
The simplicity of it. But then that silence that we're talking about reminds me, I think the last show I did, or the second to last show I was on, we talked about that silent room where it's completely void,
the quietest
of
room
sound,
in the world,
and it drives you crazy.
Well,
it drives people crazy because you hear your own heartbeat, and then
it's not enough just to disconnect. Like, the disconnect is the first step, but there's actually a skill that you have to learn. The best way I can describe it is allowing.
Right.
If you can learn to allow things to be as they are, you're going to be a lot more happy in life. And that's where we get, I think, caught up, because we're taught that we have to accomplish and we have to succeed and la la la, and all that takes effort. You're trying to make certain things happen, but so many prophets from so many areas have all taught us that it's not that effort that brings us happiness. It's allowing things to be as they are that brings us true fulfillment.
Yeah.
Learning to appreciate and love what is, not what you want to be.
And speaking of things that we love, we need to love to talk about whiskey real quick. So this one is the Rebel Full Strength 120 proof New News Barrel Pick, and this is the first time I've had any Rebel offering, and I'm pretty dadgum impressed. Yeah. So is there someone that would like to go on to and talk about one, the aroma, what you taste, hints, things like that first? Anybody? Okay,
I'll jump in. I'm taking notes tonight.
Sure.
One of the things that I like is when a whiskey's oily. Mm-hmm. You sometimes don't see it at this high of proof, so I put on there delightfully oily, right? It clings to the glass pretty good.
Lasting.
Yeah, and it hangs around. It's got a long linger. It's got a little bit of spice, but a good burn, right? And I'm not one on picking flavors and whatnot, but today I said it's like one of those cinnamon toothpicks,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I like that.
You know, where it gives you that little burn, but it's got that hint of cinnamon. And I'm not big on putting fruits and picking flavors in my whiskeys, but I thought that was good for this one.
I definitely get cinnamon on the nose. I get cinnamon and brown sugar on the palate. It's gonna sound weird. On the palate, I get like a fresh baseball glove. You know, the smell of like a brand new baseball glove. I get that on the palate when you drink this. Like hints of leather, a little spice. It lingers. It stays. It wants to be around for a long time.
I like that. I like
thing
that.
was good.
Like when you lick your baseball
Yeah.
glove too, you get that salt.
Yeah, yeah. Look. Everyone who's played baseball has done that.
Who goes next? How do you follow that? Lick the baseball
Well,
mitt?
you do.
Go ahead, Burley.
You know you have, because you see that salt line on
Then
it.
we've all been like, okay.
Yeah. You know, or you rub it and then you wet your fingers again and then you taste that salt.
No, but that's right. That's what you
it's
said
that
earlier,
leather-
right?
that
It's got
leather
that. It got
salty.
that oily flavor. You oil up your baseball mitt. You put it
Absolutely,
in there,
yeah.
right? And I don't know if we're turning people on or we're turning people off. With
I don't
this.
know. This one's a delight, though. It really
It
is.
is good.
It's very delightful.
It is
It's-
good.
It's not something I would have picked up, right? So when I went to New News and talked to him about it, and I told him I wanted something different, he said, "Well, how do you feel about barrel picks?" I'm like, "I love your barrel picks. You never do a bad job, and they are consistently good. I think this is a consistently good one."
I like it.
I think your cinnamon note is exactly right on. For me, I love anything that's 120 and over, 130. You know, but what I like are the ones like this where you get in that high proof area and it doesn't really feel that way. It doesn't burn. It doesn't hit you on the back of the throat. It's a really, really easy drinker considering it's 120.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they would be like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to have to hang tight on that. But this one, I would recommend it. Foolproof?
Yes,
Yeah,
most
all the way.
Yeah, I don't usually, especially like your standard bourbons, like off the shelf stuff, and I immediately tasted like I don't know what it. I guess it's the corn,
Corn's gonna be the sweetness that's there.
but it had that flavor, but it's really I like it. I would drink this again, and it definitely the spice. It's a little smoky to me.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the proof is not overpowering at all. I find it's actually
At
very
120, it's a sleeper.
I'd say
Yeah.
we give it 2 baseball gloves up.
Walker, how much time we got left? 2 minutes. We had enough time to do rating and what would you pay.
right.
So what would you pay? It's closest to the hole. You can go over. You cannot go over. It'll move anyway. Doesn't matter. Someone's gonna win. Someone's gonna lose.
All right.
So
It's all right. I'll go first.
No.
MSRP? Oh, go ahead.
well, yeah. But when you're gonna get you get what would you pay, and then the whiskey rating scale, right? So red, I wouldn't drink it if it was free. Yellow, only if it's free will I drink it. Green, I would buy this. I like it. I enjoy it. Blue, I need it today. I will seek this out. I need to have this at my bar. So Andrew,
Green,
okay,
79.
all right. So green and 79,
solid,
even 79 even,
79.
even black. Okay,
solid green for me as well. I don't know that I would go seek this, but if having the opportunity and the circumstances were right, especially maybe if I wanted to share a bourbon with someone who didn't especially like bourbons like myself and say, hey, we'll try this. Yeah. I'll say 54.
okay, all right. Burley,
I don't think I've given a blue in a while. That's not why I would give it a blue, but I'd give it a blue. But because this is in my space. The proof is right, the drinkability of it, the color, the greasiness, it all hits for me. I myself, I'll give it a blue.
and how much would you pay?
For this, I'll go $64.
Okay, Walker, what would you pay?
Well, by the look of the bottle, probably 72.
Okay, rating.
I don't know. I haven't tried it.
Oh, I didn't put you a glass. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a
All
deal.
right, so we're gonna need somebody in the corner. Dave, from a distance, I'll repeat what you say. What's your rating on this, Dave? Green. Green for Dave. What would you pay? I'm not gonna say. Okay. The problem with it is, I'm gonna give this one a blue too.
All right.
So we're split. No, actually, no. We have 3-2.
3-2.
3-2. Green wins. Retail $56.99 on the shelf at New News. This is their barrel pick. Wow. Phenomenal bargain at $56.99. At that price, Daniel, you got it, brother. You got it. So we'll be right back for the last segment of Hour 1. Welcome back to Implicit Bias for the final segment of Hour 1. My name's not important. We're drinking Rebel Foolproof New News Barrel Pick. Daniel won this one. It is a green, retail $56.99. So I forgot to mention, but you get to wear that lead warning device in front of you. If you start tasting sweet in your mouth, it's poisoning. We have a pin. Let us know. We'll give you a shot.
I was a painter for 20 years. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll do introductions again real quick. In the chair, much like mine, we have Burley Short Pour Pellerin joining us again.
Glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
Up at the bar with the What Would You Pay belt chain of doom around his neck is Daniel Hale.
Belt chain of doom.
I don't know what else to call it. Like Kavan says it's so nice, but. And then next to you, Daniel, we have David Duyon with All Wood Furniture. David's enjoying us. Dave, this is your second time on the show too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the second time.
Now, first time here at this one?
First time here, yes.
Yeah. It's been a little while. We missed you.
Oh, yeah. Miss y'all, man.
We can have a good time. It's okay. We try to enjoy it. So the Rebel officially agreeing. Go out, buy it. This is New News Barrel Pick, worth every penny for $56.99. So now topics. We talked about mental health and everything else. I want to kind of go into something that is interesting to me, and that's the Ivanpah solar thermal power generating. It's not a substation, it's a power station, and it's utter failure. So this is a power production facility that is on the border of California and Nevada. It actually came out in 2010. Is whenever they started production of it under then Governor Schwarzenegger. They applied for their permitting and everything else. They're on public land, by the way, not privately owned land. They're on public land. The facility cost $2.2 billion. I like to accentuate that. 1.6 of that billion came from us, the American taxpayer, via a loan from the government for their clean, green energy. It was supposed to produce enough energy to power about 100,000 homes in the area. They were going to sell 2/3 of it, some other stuff. Had great numbers. It looked great on paper. 3,500 acres. And construction was completed in February of 2014. It was going to be a 30-year facility. And out the gate, it failed. They had problems with I think they called them not a hemostat, but a hero-stat or something like that. It was, instead of traditional solar panels, they used these mirrors the size of garage doors.
It's the jankiest looking
It is
thing.
awesome.
It's ridiculous. It really is.
So they have 3,500 acres, 3 boilers that are a couple hundred feet in the air. I don't remember the height.
450, I think.
450.
450 in the air.
Yeah, so I have 3 of these and like 175,000 mirrors around them. And the mirrors all focus on each one of these boilers. They boil water to turn turbines. And it was supposed to generate steam, to turn turbines, to generate power. And within the first month of it opening, Burley, does anybody know what they had to do to generate enough power?
They had to buy gas.
Buy natural gas.
They had to buy natural gas. So much natural gas that they had to get a special permit
from the state of California.
From the state of California to allow that much gas to come into the facility to heat this water.
And
which,
then,
if you've seen the pictures, you should look this up. I mean, I imagine back, whenever I was 6 years old, with that little piece of glass or mirror or a magnifying glass, and taking that time to focus it on a leaf or an ant, and do that. Well, that's what they're doing with this thing, this janky looking metal box up in the air, holding however many gallons of water that they're just focusing these things on. It's almost,
it's comical.
It is.
It's even funnier. There's $2.2 billion. And so they had to get a special permit for all the natural gas they were going to be using. They had to produce more natural gas and truck more natural gas into California and Nevada to do it. And then they had to apply to the state of California for special permits for the amount of gas, byproduct, and waste they produce is double the limit of a traditional coal plant. So they produced more biohazard material, I think that's the right term for it, more waste material, we use that, than a comparable coal, diesel, or natural gas facility. So they're shutting it down. One of the other problems they've had with it is I didn't realize this, but did y'all know that mirrors attract bugs? I didn't know that really.
I didn't either, but
So-
I don't really understand that.
I don't-
but
I don't- yeah.
I don't understand how or why, but
I can see the bright light aspect.
Into the mic. Yeah. So
Yeah. So like bright lights, I mean,
yeah.
that's definitely a bug thing.
Well, so and what comes with the bugs?
Birds.
So there's another thing that they call streamers. And these streamers are the birds that fly through the sun's rays that are focused. And they're so focused that it produces 1,000-degree heat around these boilers. And the birds are combusting in flames before crashing to the ground. So I just want to thank our government, thank these engineers for the thought that they had, because it was another utter failure. But you know what's not a failure? Us. We have this last break for the first hour coming back to you soon. If you're not listening to us in the second hour, you should. Call right. Get us there. You want to follow. Welcome back to Hour 2, Segment 1 of Implicit Bias. We're talking about the Ivanpah solar thermal waste of taxpayer money, how they have vaporized birds flying through the sky. But, that's what we want, I guess, when we want green energy, right? And green energy, the term, the buzzword and all that stuff, why do they even use green energy? Because when we think of other energy, we don't refer to natural gas as clear energy. We call coal and everything, coal and oil, what do they call it? Dirty.
I don't know that there's really ever been an energy that's actually green.
No.
Like
can't
you
think
call
of it.
electricity green energy, but where does electricity come from? Really dirty sources. So, I mean,
Yeah,
there's no such thing as green energy.
it's all marketing. That's all it is. When you look at when they started trying to change the way that we think about gasoline, diesel, and other fuels, they started calling petroleum product or petro fuels fossil fuels. And I mean, as a young kid, when I heard fossil fuels, I was like, well, dinosaurs get crushed down, and from the dead dinosaurs come oil. And that's what I thought, because it's a fossil, right?
That was great, man.
So, that's the way my non-scientist brain thought, right? Was these, the Tyrannosaurus Rex gets crushed down and the stuff that's around it and becomes oil. Well, you know what we've learned here now, all these years later? Fossil fuels don't come from fossils. The term fossil fuel was meant to make you as the consumer think it's a finite product. Well, so if it's not a finite product, wouldn't oil be a renewable resource?
Ding, 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 winner.
And then look, so here we are in South Louisiana, where Louisiana as a whole. Do y'all know what we drill for more than anything else in Louisiana?
gas.
Gas, baby. And what is really one of the cleanest energy sources we have?
Gas.
Gas. So if we want a clean or green energy source, why wouldn't we try to use the biggest product that we produce right here in Louisiana to do so? I mean, to me, that just makes more sense. Coal works. Here we have the Ivanpah thing where they had to use natural gas because the sun doesn't stay out 24 hours a day and it wasn't producing enough heat. So
I could say that I don't believe any big business decisions get made based on ethical purposes anyway, regardless. There's always a dollar sign somewhere there.
you're probably
the
right.
rest of it is just
Semantics.
propaganda,
Well, that propaganda is the perfect term, because that's what marketing is. It's spinning propaganda and it's helping to re-educate us as the consumer. We looked at everything else and we look at our oil reserves. When you hear that the oil reserves are in Louisiana, you think, well, man, the oil reserves, that's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of oil. You know how much the strategic reserve in Louisiana, how much fuel that would produce? 24 hours worth. Does that sound like a reserve? No. 24 hours worth. We keep them
Really?
in what's called a plastic formation. Do y'all know what plastic formations are? A salt dome. Because it moves. It's bendable and pliable. It's water soluble. Oil is not water based. It's plastic formation. So that's where we store it. Well, natural gas, you can do all the same things. It's easy to store, easy to manipulate, easy to use. It's abundant, but yet it doesn't have the same profit margin or even the negative profit margin as this clean green energy they're trying to push. Because it doesn't have the twist.
That's interesting. And you know what's funny? One of the biggest power plants that we here where we live, get power from is actually from a coal-fired power plant up north a little bit, right? So it makes power there using coal. We don't even produce coal.
Nope. You know, we still have a really cool facility right on the Mississippi River too. There's a nuclear facility in Louisiana.
There is, yeah.
And that is the cleanest energy producing facility that exists. Least amount of byproduct is a nuclear facility. But we don't
It's
try to make more of them.
3 Mile. What is?
Yeah,
what is
3
it?
Mile.
3 Mile. Yeah.
Yep. And we don't try to produce more of these. Why? Because we're afraid of what we don't know. And instead of doing something that really matters, like maybe building another nuclear power facility to power somewhere like the state of California, they would rather spend $2.2 billion, $1.6 billion of which is the taxpayer money.
Just see if you know this. A nuclear power facility.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have what is it? The isotope.
Uranium, the nuclear isotopes. Yep.
Okay. So that creates heat.
Correct.
They use that to boil water to create
To turn turbines.
to
the steam.
turn turbines with steam, and then that's where they capture the power. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you do is you have like a plutonium core, and they have uranium rods, right? So they get these rods. The closer they get to it, a nuclear reaction occurs, which generates high heat. So the atoms start moving really fast. The vibration from the atoms moving fast creates the heat. The heat expands. It is around a water core already. Can generate steam. Steam gets channeled up. No matter what we use, it's steam power,
Yeah.
right? That's the most efficient way we found to create power is through steam. So it's, what are we going to power the steam with? The sun. That didn't work. Natural gas. That works. Coal. That works. Nuclear. We're finding something to burn no matter what we do.
Right.
But let's do it intelligently. And I think it's hilarious how the marketing spin on this, whether whoever's doing it, all we're doing is lying to the consumer, which is us. Yeah. That's all we want to do is lie to us about it. And the same fuel keeps coming back as the best fuel. And look, I would love to tell you that we're going to have all these other things and that nuclear might work and become bigger. But right now, what we got is the best thing we've got. And we're trying to produce new things. And this Ivanpah facility, they're shutting it down. Why? Because here we are just 11 years after it was produced. It's dated and they can no longer produce new things for it. Wind turbines. Those of you out there are thinking about wind turbines. What happens to those wind turbine arms when they're done?
Junk.
They're junk. They can't reuse them. It takes hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil to lubricate these turbines. They produce more byproduct than they make. But you know what? Hey, we're going to give them an incentive because it's green energy.
In theory, but obviously not in practice.
Nothing in practice when it comes to this.
It creates jobs.
Creates jobs. You know, they said that about Ivanpah. It's going to create thousands of construction jobs. And they had 62 full-time people. So outside of those that built it, they were supposed to have 1,000 jobs at least. And 62. Man, 2.2 billion, 3,500 acres, 62 full-time jobs.
You know what burns me the most is that it feels like nobody ever really pays for this kind of shit. But and I don't mean pay like in money. I mean like there's no consequences.
No,
ever.
No.
Just the birds.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
the poor
Yeah.
birds blowing
Yeah.
up.
So like when are we going to enact policy to hold our leaders accountable when they make stupid decisions? I'm sorry.
You know,
Well,
you
what
would hope.
Solyndra was what 500 million
Yep,
or something
500
like
million.
that, and it was literally gone
Like
in
that.
30 days.
Not their money. They don't care.
Right.
Right. We look at Musk, right, with Doge. He introduced, was it 192 different cuts that would have equaled like $2.1 trillion, if memory serves me correctly. Out of those 192, there have been 181 lawsuits filed against him that are still open. Out of the 11 remaining, we're going to save like $280 million. So do you think the government really wants to save money whenever those in office are going to file 181 out of 192 lawsuits? No. There's nothing to do with where the money, nothing to do with where the power goes. It's all where the money goes, which is disheartening. I'm not trying to depress you out there, people.
Do we have that on a list of topics about
The Doge?
the Elon Musk?
No, I didn't send that one. We can talk about it though.
I don't know much about it except I saw a blurb about it today. I mean, are they quote unquote feuding, or is that a farce?
That I don't know. I know that he is no longer a federal employee. And look,
Well, because but that was by design.
yeah, that was
right?
by
It's not
design.
like
It was
he
a temporary
fired.
position.
It was a temporary
Yep.
position
It
for
was
100
never long
days.
term.
Right.
Never long term. He was there to help get things going, set up Doge, and then make it autonomous and efficient. That way, it didn't need the oversight of someone else.
Right.
And what you're talking about is probably Musk's disagreement with the big beautiful bill and the increase of the budget or the national debt by what, 2.2 trillion or 2.3
Something,
trillion?
yeah.
Right. And he says that's a bad idea. And look, I think increasing debt is a bad idea. Do I think that the machine we have is so broken that we probably have to? Probably. But I mean, it's crazy that we've gotten to where we are. Do y'all realize that for, I don't remember the exact number, but like the first 20 or so presidents, we were debt free? And look, listeners out there, double check this, look at it and see it. It might be more or less.
I don't think that's necessarily a fair perspective, though, because probably during those presidencies, we were probably like taking a lot of advantage of a lot of situations at that point.
Well, we were getting tariffs from other people. Instead of paying the jizra, which we were required to pay a jizra on the Horn of Africa, which is a tax that the non-Muslims would pay to the Muslim nations there, we went to war with them, the Barbary Coast Wars. And Thomas Jefferson was the person who orchestrated that. And look, back then, if we didn't want to pay certain things, we'd go to war, right? Which is kind of what we're founded on, right? So taking advantage, yeah, maybe, right? But we went to war over a 2.5% tax on tea, but yet the average American has a 44% tax rate.
But tea was like more than just tea back
Oh,
then.
yeah, it was
too.
a currency and everything else too.
Yeah, that was like a main power in the world at that time, was the tea companies.
Yep.
So
Yeah, but 2.5% on tea, and we're going to pay 44% on the time we earn. When you think about the money that we pay others or that we pay ourselves, right? We're buying their life. We're buying their time. And if Uncle Sam takes any of that, Uncle Sam is saying that he has something that's more valuable than your time and your life. And yet we've somehow agreed to let them do this.
people want to be taken care of. People want to be told what to do.
Well, it goes to the adage, right? You look out over the plains, and there's a lion, right? He's out there and he's surrounded by the elements. He's not safe. Nature can kill him. He has to scrounge and fight for his food. When you look at the zoo, the lion there, he's safe. He's given up the plains. He's given up freedom for safety. Which one do you want to be?
Mad as hell at the same time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's everything. Every time I go to the zoo, I'm just like, oh, I just,
I look at those animals, I'm like,
it
these
hurts.
these things could be delicious, but if they weren't behind cages.
I just mean, like you can see the toll that it takes
Yeah.
on them mentally, emotionally. Like you can see it. Like they would rather have the challenge of survival along with the freedom. I don't know where human beings like decided that that wasn't worth it anymore. You know, but I have a feeling it's been a thing for a long time,
goes
not
back
just
to-
recent history.
No, it goes back to propaganda, right? To the marketing of whatever someone's selling, right? And the government's going to sell you security without independence. You don't have to think. You just have to exist. And many people will give up that to do that. And when we look at those of us that are here that are business owners, has it always been easy?
No.
Absolutely. No, it's pretty rough, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, out of everyone here, Dave, I think you've had it probably the roughest. You've had, what, 2 fires and 1 flood?
Yeah, 2 floods actually.
2 floods, 2 fires, 2 floods.
After COVID though, man, that really knocked us out.
You know, and it hurts. And you employ quite a few people,
Yeah.
and their lives and their families' lives, and all depend on their wage and everything else. And every night you probably sit down and you think, well, how am I gonna make it to where they're better off?
That is what I do every night.
Yeah.
Every day, you know, how can I make it for my employees and everyone that works for me better for them?
And you know, if you worked for someone else, you wouldn't have to have that thought. That's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
But once you know and once you feel that, you don't want to give it to anyone else because it's heavy.
You're right.
So I think that's why we give up so much. is because the average person doesn't want to know the toll that independence takes upon their life.
I would argue that you have a better chance of actually finding what everyone seems to be struggling to find, purpose, when you make decisions and you do what you do in life for others. Service is where we find our purpose. You know, and if all you're doing is looking out for yourself, you're going to be miserable. I don't care how successful you are. You're going to be miserable. And so many really wealthy people seem to echo that at some point in their life, you know, that just seeking after more does not bring any fulfillment. It's just an empty hole that never gets filled, you know. But when you do for others, you get, I don't know.
Yeah, it fills the proverbial cup, right? That's as a Catholic and having attended an Acts retreat. If you're not familiar with Acts is an acronym for adoration, community, theology, and service. And when you're finding the balance of those things in your life, you certainly understand what fills your cup, right? And I know for me, acts of service is my rejuvenation. It's helping others, and I'm not talking about giving to others. I'm talking about giving.
What's giving of your time, giving of yourself?
I mean, you can throw a $5 bill at the guy at every corner in Lafayette, right? I mean, yeah. I mean,
That's not necessarily healthy.
That's not right. That might make some people feel good. Oh, I gave the guy $5, but doing something for someone, when you see someone with a flat tire on the side of the road and struggling to you know, I have a floor jack in the back of my truck, right? I mean, that changes the tire a lot better than that wind up thing, you know, in most vehicles. So I inevitably pass, turn around and come back and help them. So much so that my son, who's with me oftentimes, one day we were in a hurry, and I know we're on a minute. We were in a hurry one day, and there was a car broken down on the side of the road, flat tire or something, and I passed, and Carter, my son, hit me on my arm and said, "Dude, you're not going to stop?" I'm like, "Man, we don't have time." He said, "We can be late." So I turned around, came back, you know, and he was 10 at the time, right? I mean, so that's the kind of stuff that you want to teach, right? And you want to show them. But I do know that, yes, that filled me. I don't need anything for it. I'm not telling you all to get accolades for it. I know that fills me.
I am of service. How can I serve? And right now, we have to serve our sponsors. Welcome back to Implicit Bias. We're drinking whiskey. All right. So we just finished talking about nuclear power, everything else, all the things that go along with it. And I kind of lost my train of thought, to be 100% honest with you. But earlier we were talking about purpose and what we do and where we find solace and comfort. And I wanted to talk to somebody who's probably got, well, I would assume he's got the oldest profession of any of us in this room. Sorry, Walker. Even though you talk for a living, I think his job's been around longer. And that's Dave. Dave with Allwood. I mean, we look at the man that I try to emulate. When I look at Christ, I mean, what was his earthly father's profession?
Carpentry.
Well, look at that.
I knew something.
And then what do y'all do?
Carpentry.
So I wanted to kind of talk to you about how, as a man, using your hands and then creating something, because you've seen the stuff that I've tried to build. I think you burned it for me because it was horrible.
You're the gun guy.
It was designated unsafe.
Yeah. I'm good at some things. I'm not good at carpentry, and I can't do what y'all do. I mean, when you look at how long you been doing this?
34 years.
And you do things different than a lot of the other people that do case goods, box goods, and carpentry in our area. I mean, y'all specialize in Cypress, and I know you'll work with other stuff, but you really enjoy and love cypress, right?
That's yeah. Mainly we do cypress.
And why cypress? Is it because it's just the Louisiana?
Man, it's the most beautiful wood there is
It's,
in the world.
It's hard, right?
That's a softwood.
Is it a soft? It's a
Yeah.
soft.
It's
wood?
easy to work with. It's
Easy to
just-
work with. Okay.
And you know when you get cypress, you never know what it's going to look like. Every board you mill is going to be a little bit different.
I know I've seen a lot of. I love the stuff that you produce. I mean, there used to be a vanity in the shop that was sinker cypress,
Oh yeah.
and it was this deep, almost orange. And I don't know if it was due to the stain or just how much time that wood was underwater, because cypress, unlike traditional other hardwoods, it won't really rot, will it?
As long as it's under the water, it won't. But new cypress will rot in the weather. But
Now-
sinker cypress not likely.
Now, the new cypress, do you think it's just because it grows at a different rate, or is it just because it hasn't had the elements beat it up like everything else?
I think it's the rate it's being cut. But man, like New Orleans is built on cypress pylons. They don't rot.
Doesn't the process of,
Into the mic real quick if you don't mind.
doesn't the process of being underwater like kind of what do you call
Mineralized?
yeah,
or-
mineralize, exactly.
Yeah, it gives it all kind of different colors, and yes, from depending on where it comes from. Florida might have a different color than Louisiana, vice versa. Even the Vermilion River or in
the basin.
Mexico, Gulf of America.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
bad.
Gulf of America.
Gulf of America. So if they have some there, it'll be a little bit different color.
Well, and like a lot of the pieces, all the bars we have in the shop, whenever I think you actually built them, right? It wasn't one of your guys?
Yeah,
Right.
I actually built
So you
the bar.
you were sitting down talking to me about how most of that wood would have been scraps and throwaway. Because correct me if I'm wrong, you called them checks. It was the cracks, the splits, the twists that each one of those trees had endured over its life, and how the average carpenter would get rid of it because it was too hard to work with.
You're right. He would, but it has such a character when you put it together that it looks better than just a regular old board.
I think that's the beauty of like a real carpenter, someone who knows what they're doing. And you can put this in every other aspect of your life, is someone who sees the beauty in the difficulty. Because nothing that comes easy lasts long, right?
You're right.
So you should have to work for it, because then the amount of just personal, spiritual, and social satisfaction you get out of it, and then the things that y'all produce. Whenever you blessed me with the ability to be able to use your space to open the Rustic Renegade, like my shop and who I am today wouldn't exist if it wasn't for David Duyon. And the first time I had to pick up one of your tables, I realized the difference between like the stuff I grew up eating at and what you make.
Huh.
I mean, it's a phenomenal difference, and it shows the lifetime quality and the lifetime care of not only who you are, but what you produce. And when I say what you produce, I'm talking about on every level. Because when we talk about the impact we have on others, the other things we've done, through your grace, Rustic came to fruition. And then the things that we've done, the people that we've impacted, the laws that we've helped to shape and get passed, and the suicide prevention we've done, none of that would have happened if it wasn't for the kindness of you. So when you look at the butterfly effect that you've had upon thousands of people, brother, it's amazing.
Dave, when you create something, what's the thing you like to do the most? What product does Dave say, "Oh yeah, I love to build these"?
It's kind of a month-to-month thing. Right now, we're on whiskey cabinets.
Okay.
So, like right now, I like designing a whiskey cabinet, a beverage center. Oddly, we had the whiskey tasting.
Okay. That's
So-
that's interesting.
I don't get to build as much as I used to because I have to kind of manage everything, make sure the wood comes in, check, all that stuff. But actually putting it on paper, or my brother may CAD it out, and then giving it to a builder and watching him build it, and then going through our finishing department all the way, to the customer. That's where I get the most satisfaction at right now.
I remember probably one of the last things that So Dave built. I have a beautiful whiskey cabinet. It's got hidden gun compartments in my shop. And then I remember when you were building.
It's not hidden anymore.
Yeah,
Evidently.
well, no, good luck finding where they go. But I remember you built a, we'll call it a wine room for a guy.
Cellar.
And it was hidden behind like his stairwell and some other stuff. And this is like a 13-foot tall. How tall was it?
Man, I think it was about 13 foot.
13-foot tall wine cellar, and he had a whiskey barrel in there. How many
Oh,
bottles?
that's I know.
I wasn't
I'm
gonna
not going to
say his
say
name.
who's it.
Yeah.
I just went in there. I know
and
who
that
it
is built by his hands.
1,000 bottles.
Yes, it's beautiful. By the way, we were talking about you. That's why I was thinking of, man, going. That's got to be.
You know that guy?
Yeah, I know that guy.
You
Yeah.
know, and like, look, to me, there's nothing better to show off. And look, I don't collect whiskey or wine. I drink whiskey or wine, right? So I need a place to temporarily hold it. And when you look at something that's produced by a person's hands and not cut out by a machine that has no
Sure.
emotion or life,
Yeah.
the beauty of what a carpenter can do in any aspect. There's a wonderful book called The Carpenter too that I think every man should read because it relates the skill set of someone who can see the beauty and the brokenness in just lumber into life.
What's the book called?
The Carpenter.
The Carpenter.
Yep.
Okay.
Have you read that one, Dave?
Yes, I have.
Maybe you were the one that gave that to me, I think.
Or you gave it to me.
One of those. I don't remember. It's been a little while.
I need
man.
to look
Long
into
time
that.
ago.
It's a very good one.
Yeah.
And it takes a special person to be able to see the beauty in the hard work. It really does. Because we talk about mental health, we talk about everything else that goes with it. And some of the best moments in my life were so difficult. And then the satisfaction of accomplishing. And I didn't say, like when I say, I didn't say getting it right. I said accomplishing, right? So even a failure, I've accomplished something.
Absolutely.
I learned what I couldn't do or what I could do.
No, absolutely.
Was it Thomas Edison that said, ask me how to make a light bulb and I'll show you 999 ways to fail? Right? Or something to that effect.
Right.
So men are meant to have that form of conflict. We yearn for it. We need it. We need something to brush up against to wear us away to our purest, most visceral form. It's something to be
Well,
said.
and just the simplicity of quote unquote accomplishing or doing something. Going back to our first segment where we were talking about, finding that ability even in those mundane tasks. Something that, like I said, I mean, when you cut the grass, right? When you're finished, I don't know of many of us who don't just take that minute and just say, oh, and look at that. That yard looks good today. Even if you're just to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then your neighbor comes over and then you're like, yeah, I probably could have gone, I could have gone down a notch, but I let it a little high today, so you're relishing in that accomplishment. Just like if you're building a simple end table, right? You've got to take pride in that product. And there's details about it that you would probably communicate to somebody when they say, "Oh man, I like that little end table." You'd probably take that opportunity to say, "Well, it is just an end table, but here's what I did different to it. There's not a nail in it.
When it's learning
there's not a screw in it. There's no metal in it. That's all wood."
It's learning
you know?
to convey the beauty we see in everything. And sometimes you just have to see beauty in silence. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Implicit Bias. Hour 2 is always more fun. I think we're drinking less because we're talking more this time, but that's okay.
You know what? I'm going to get a little bit more.
I've been sipping. I've been enjoying that Rebel, that 120.
I'm taking it easy today.
I
And
hydrated
let me throw
earlier.
this in there real quick. I not to talk about another whiskey, but just real quick. I'm not a Scotch drinker. Last night I had the pleasure of having whiskey, Scotch, from my buddy Adonis over at Poseidon's, and he opened up this bottle,
Qu'est-ce que ça?
Macallan Harmony Collection.
I haven't had it with Harmony. I'm counting Harmony.
And when I tell you it was divine, and I don't drink Scotch.
It's
Scotch,
hard.
Scotch stinks.
It's difficult because most bourbon guys are bourbon guys. Most Scotch guys hate bourbon guys, right?
We don't really hate them, but bourbon's better.
Yeah, bourbon's much better.
I'm telling you this, if you could find this, it's called the Macallan Harmony Collection. And it was
Well, go check out New News.
Well,
Go
I've noticed
run.
too myself, like what is traditionally the different kinds of whiskey, those lines are starting to blur.
They
Oh,
are
very much
They
so.
are.
You know.
You
Yeah.
know, you still get the purists who are like, that's not whiskey, it's rye. Well, rye was around before what we call modern whiskey.
Exactly.
Right. So there's a lot of twists and turns, and
Bourbon can't be made. It can't be called bourbon if it's made anywhere but Kentucky. Well,
yeah, you know, and look, there's so much good stuff out there. Like, just swallow that pride for a little while and forget that you have a PhD in basket weaving
So,
and,
so
and
thanks.
enjoy whiskey.
Thanks to Adonis, I'm taking it a little easy today because
You're recovering from last night.
yeah, it was.
The hair of the dog.
So the guy that you know knows Adonis too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Well,
for sure.
the guy that you know that knows Adonis takes me to Poseidon's to eat every once
Okay.
again. I love that place, man.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah, those guys are great.
So I want to touch on a sent a topic, and I noticed today it's all over the media. When I sent it, I looked a little bit, couldn't find more, but I was actually, I don't think they're called tweets anymore. I think, what are they called now on X? Expletives? Is that what we decided, Walker? Do you know?
Yeah, that's what we decided.
Okay, thank you for staying involved. So I follow Kash Patel on there, and he posted yesterday that the FBI arrested a Chinese national in the U.S. who was accused of allegedly smuggling in a biological pathogen. This individual, Walker, can you read the name for me? Go to your text message and try to read the name.
PGM or something like that.
So, well, I want Walker to try to do it here in a second. But so they brought this in, and it's a fungus called, I should have let him do the name, Fusarium guarani eardrum. I added a drum. I don't know what else is in there. It's a lot. Can you all pronounce that better?
No, I looked at it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, geez.
So this fungus causes disease in wheat, barley, maize, and rice. These things are all very important to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only for the whiskey side, but everything else. You get the name now, Walker? You want to try it?
Younging Yan.
Nailed it.
Oh, my
Nailed it.
God.
Where's the bell? Ring the bell.
No wonder you
There
wear
go.
short shorts. Look, now I'm learning something new over here. So this person, this Chinese national, was employed. Anybody know where? The University of Michigan. Why were they smuggling in this agro-terrorist product, which is what is labeled an agro-terrorist product, because what it can do, it's on the no-income list of the United States. They use this for bioterrorism and other things to cause mass mayhem. They were going to research it at the University of Michigan. This same person has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Do you really think they were going to bring it into our... Now, this is me just thinking, right? This is speculative. Do you think they were really going to bring it in just to do some research at the University of Michigan?
Nope.
No, I doubt it. Because if
Yeah.
you were going to research it,
Is it worth that risk?
It says this fungus can cause a disease called head blight, like you said, affecting wheat, barley, maize, and rice. Maize, of course, is corn, causing significant health issues in both humans and livestock. I mean, it's responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. Why would you need to bring that into...
Bring it somewhere where it's already had a
Why
problem.
don't you go where
They do
it's already
research.
there and
Yeah.
do research there?
Do research where it's already an issue. Don't make an issue here when it doesn't have to be.
I don't know. It's like it drives me crazy. We sit here and argue over weapon laws and such, and yet these scientists with God complexes are unable to research with these things that can literally wipe out the earth. And
I mean, what happened to the good old scientists, right? Like what about Stephen Hawking? Like one of the coolest things he did, in my opinion, did y'all ever hear about his time traveler party? You know why? Because if he told everybody about it, we all would have showed up, right? So he had a time traveler party, and he wanted to prove that time travel was real. So he did this big old production, said nothing about it, and then advertised it after the fact to prove that time travel wasn't real. Because if it was real, the time travelers in the future would have come back to see it. That's what I think of with this. Like, look, that's science, right? He threw himself a party, and he sat there in the corner and was like, ha, 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 ha. I'm doing my hands. For those of y'all who can't see, I'm typing. Well, he couldn't type either. So, oh well. But that's a scientist, and here we have a scientist, a Chinese national scientist who works at the University of Michigan, who's like, let me smuggle this fungus in. And I'm curious, who found this fungus? Like, is there? There's a thing called a Fido, by the way, that will smell different chemicals and funguses and scents and certain things. They have it at international airports. Did the Fido find it, or did someone's dog literally just sit next to the guy and be like, "Whoa, hey John, come look at this"? Like, how did this happen? How did we catch them? Was it a tip? If it was a tip, great. Hey, congratulate the person, give them a high five. But I want to know what the real purpose was, because it wasn't research at the University of Michigan.
Agro-terrorism is what it says.
Yep.
Is what it is. I mean, again, you affect our domestic food supply. Where do we get the majority of the other stuff that we? You know, it baffles me that we import rice.
Especially when you think about South Louisiana.
Right.
You know, every crawfish field is a rice field, if you don't realize that.
Definitely.
So,
The Chinese are not quiet about wanting to destroy us, right?
oh, no, yeah.
So, no shocker.
No.
No.
It just, and like you mentioned this off air, it blows my mind that we do so much business with a people that despise us. I don't get it. Were you waving at me, or was that, no, you're not waving? Hi, Walker. So,
Hey, Caleb.
but like it just, when is enough? And when are we going to really be independent again? You know, my entire life, our nation has never been independent.
Unfortunately, I would have to guess it's going to take a lot of like tightening of the belt at the least, but really a lot of just suffering outright to really cut those ties. And as Americans, we don't like to suffer.
Oh, no. Americans, look, we're very spoiled people.
Yeah.
You know, from somebody who thoroughly enjoys air conditioning. And I've been to many places where they don't have it. And that's why I use the piss out of it now. Because I've sweat a whole bunch in my life. And we get very, very vocal about discomfort. But it's through our discomfort where we grow. It is through the pain and the agony of discomfort that we grow. And we shouldn't go out and seek discomfort.
Unless it means getting rid of the Chinese.
We should learn to accept it, right? Life happens. And some days you're on top, some days you're on bottom. The universe doesn't have it out for you. You just happen to live in the universe. Be right back for the last segment of Implicit Bias. Welcome back to the final segment of Implicit Bias. Look, hey, depression's a real thing. We will be back another week. It's okay. In the meantime, grab a glass of Rebel, Foolproof, the new news pick, $56.99. Self-medicate. Don't drink it. Don't drink it all at once. Don't drink it all at once. But enjoy it. Spend time. Enjoy it. Talk to other people about it. That's what we do here, and it's been a wonderful time. Wonderful time.
Going back to the whiskey real quick. There's not many 120 proofs that you can sit and again reminding our listeners I think we're all having it.
Everyone's having it neat. Walker is having it so neat he doesn't have a glass.
There's not many 120s that people would sit and relax and enjoy neat, right? And we've each had a couple of pours, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So this is a good drinking whiskey. I'm surprised we didn't overall come up with it as a blue, because I think it certainly falls into that category.
I was actually borderline on that.
Yeah, you were.
Since I drank another glass, I'm gonna go blue.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, came to the dark side.
I'm going
there
to
you
new
go.
news.
Okay.
No, it's a good whiskey.
It's damn
very
good.
very good whiskey.
Especially at that price point.
Even better at
$57.
that price
It's
point.
ridiculous.
Yep.
So the last topic, it came out recently in Boulder. There's an illegal immigrant. I'm not going to use all the other modern terms that people are using now. I like the just raw. Illegal immigrant, person here in the United States illegally from Egypt, Mohammed Sabri Soliman, went up to a group of Jewish protesters with, I like how they're calling it a makeshift flamethrower. It was more of a little Molotov cocktail. He had a spray bottle with fuel and lit I think 6 to 8 people on fire, older people as well, while screaming "Free Palestine, Justice for Palestine." And then the first thing that the Boulder PD came out and said was, "We don't know the motive." I mean, I get the investigation was still going on, but to me that shows kind of the motives right there in front of your face. You just chose not to say it out loud because you want to be more politically correct. Thank you for that, Boulder. But the problem I also have with this is, man, Colorado, I've lived there. It's a beautiful state. Dave, you've gone there. I think everyone here has been there at least once.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a gorgeous place, but it's swung so far to the left that it's almost impossible to protect yourself. And you know what really caught me off guard is here we have a person with a handheld, like 10-foot, no, not even 6-foot flamethrowing device on a good day, and no one shot him in the face. Like, no one. No one tackled him. No one brought him down. They literally, we talked about fight or flight earlier. Every person there said, "Ooh, fried chicken."
What's up with that?
Yeah. No one said, "Not today."
Jumped at him after.
What's the
That's what they
what's
should
the
have done.
what's the carry laws in Colorado?
Colorado offers a concealed carry permit. It's a shall issue statement. If you meet all the qualifications, you can. But you weren't supposed to have a firearm in that location because there was a planned protest that was licensed and authorized. So at that point in time, it was a firearm-free zone. And
Okay. I've got mine right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
I know you do.
Yes.
I suspect maybe someone else here does as well.
I have a knife.
Well, okay.
I
I
only
mean,
used it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
that's the thing. I think it's just it's the locale, right? It's people know where and when they can do foolishness, I guess, right?
I agree because he knew that there was a good chance that no one was going to stop him. I mean, and it's not like he went after a younger crowd.
Right.
You know, and look, agree with whatever you want to agree with, disagree with whatever you want to agree with, right? Look, only those that have seen only the dead have seen the end of war, right? And those of us that have gone through it understand the toll that it takes upon you. And I would never, if I have the opportunity to vote against the war, I would vote against the war because I don't want my children to fight in one. I hope that I fought in my day so they don't have to fight in theirs. But I understand that the damn cold truth of it is they will, right? Rich men start wars, poor men fight them. So all that to say, no one did anything. Like it's disheartening. He found a soft target, exploited it, and set people on fire. And people stood around there and watched.
It's not the first time, right?
No.
It's not. And I mean, you hope that there's going to be at least one in every situation, but obviously not. Not enough. Not nearly enough. What Colonel Grossman would call sheepdogs.
Mm-hmm.
Not nearly enough. And
Well,
I feel like that needs to be encouraged.
we discourage people from any acts of violence. Look,
Correct.
if your child
Yeah.
gets punched in the face and they stand up for themselves, what's going to happen to them today?
Punished.
They're going to get punished and expelled.
Yeah.
My kids, look, if you punch a kid in the face and they deserve it, let's go get ice cream,
Exactly.
right? We'll get some Rocky Road with a black eye. It's okay, Junior.
But even beyond
Exactly.
defending yourself,
Defense of others.
defending someone else,
Well, that's what men are called to do. We're called to defend. Courageous men are called to defend those who can't defend themselves.
you're
The
right.
Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. And look, I want to be there to see it happen. I want to be there to help. And if that means standing up for somebody who can't defend himself, well, then by God, I'll do it. Right? And Andrew had a great point with this is today they came out with a travel ban in all these other locations, and guess where's not on it? Egypt.
Would you say how do you interpret that? Because would you say meek also means weak?
No.
No. So meek
No.
is like more
Meek
like
is humble.
Humble.
Right.
Humble.
Exactly. Yeah. So it doesn't insinuate
No, not
any
at all.
kind of
And look, humility is something that I struggle with, not because I find myself boastful or anything else, but I struggle with the ability to communicate about the things that I do outside of my circle, because I don't want to sound boastful, and I want to maintain humility. I don't want to be the empty can that rattles, right? And I want my children and other people that I associate with to understand that a strong man doesn't have to be a loud man or an empty man. So
Ring the bell. Yep, I was going to say ring the bell.
So the men that inherit the earth, the meek that inherits the earth, it is us. It's each and every one of us. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about a reasonable and prudent person, everyone in this room and everyone probably listening is not reasonable. And neither is the time constraints that we put on ourselves. So look, we'll see you in 7. Enjoy yourself, enjoy others, and God bless. This is your Implicit Bias.